Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we are going to be doing kind of like a casual walkthrough of Gunvein on mild difficulty with the red ship Type A. It's well balanced, of course, and I figured it's just a great option to go with for those looking to jump in or who are currently struggling with the game. You can always experiment with the other ships, of course, but yeah. So this isn't going to be any sort of like slow motion to like do a scientific breakdown. This is just going to be, yeah, like pretty easy going, just sharing some bits and pieces here and there and that kind of stuff. So the game does share little tips, as you probably notice, like in between stages and stuff, you'll have that black screen with the text just saying like, oh, hey, remember to do this, or like blah, 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 whatever. So one thing that they do mention is not to get pushed to the bottom. It's not like you have to think of it as like, oh, I can never go to the bottom of the screen. I do that all the time. Like there's kind of just like a balance. You'll kind of just get into the rhythm of things depending on which ship you're using, and depending on how it goes, you can easily use like be higher up on the screen and then pull yourself down the screen just to like retreat if you need to a little bit, just to give yourself some breathing room or to just deal with whatever. But for the most part, you will see that I do a mixture of being higher up on the screen and lower, of course. Another thing to keep in mind is that because there is a lock-on mechanic in this game, there is a fine balance to kind of adjust to, which will come with time, between, like when you're moving, it's not like you're holding down lock-on 100% of the time or letting go of it 100% of the time. Like sometimes it's tricky to like point some of these things out, but it's kind of like a constant back and forth. Like there are times where like for split seconds, you're doing it, you're not doing it, you're doing it again. And sometimes it has very little to do with actually locking on, but more to do with the speed increase and decrease that you want to go for to maneuver around these bullet patterns or through them and whatnot. So yeah, it's kind of a dance in that way, and just, yeah, like I said, a balance you got to get used to. So for the most part, the first stage isn't super crazy. I get that, like, it will still be a challenge for many people. But for the most part, like if you can make sense of what I'm doing here, you're good to go. Plus you have all the resources at your disposal. So I think I'll focus on this boss a little bit, and then I'll get to the point that I want to mention about this run in particular. So you really got to watch for that stream of red shots he fires right down the center. That can easily catch you off guard if you're not being careful. And then for that pattern, you just go back and forth and then just stay in between those little gaps between each of those bursts, and then just stay on him for the damage. Like just keep that damage flow going, and boom, he's done. So for this run, this is a segmented run. I just went into like what I did, I just because sometimes I would still fumble, so I just figure, you know what, we'll just go to the stage select and we'll just do things that way. So for the most part, the focus is no bomb, no miss. There are just a few sections where I will allow myself a bomb, and I think during the final boss, because I haven't practiced that like at all, some silly hits are taken and that kind of stuff, but you'll still get the general idea. It's not that you have to attempt to no bomb, no miss this whole game or anything like that. I'm just doing it this way so that you can see how things go when you're not using your resources. But the great thing is, like I said, if you can make sense of like kind of the flow of each stage here, you can use your resources more or less wherever you want, because things are pretty plentiful in this game. Like there's no shortage of bomb fragments, so you never need to really worry about that kind of stuff. So that's kind of just the focus for this run in particular, or this guide rather. So yeah, another thing, just like, I really like the green ship because you can have damage pockets already going off before enemies even show up, and so it's like incredibly efficient for speed killing. This one's pretty awesome too. Of course, you gotta wait for the the enemies to show up and then lock on and then fire. And that's why you'll often see me like getting up super close just to do like a full lock on or whatever, and take things out as quickly as possible. Of course, there's that threat of being really close to enemies, but you got to remember a lot of the time the attacks are aimed directly at you, so you can just move away and you have all sorts of space below you if you need to retreat or whatever else. So for this boss, I just go back and forth like this, nice and easy. If you see like you're going to cut yourself off or be cut off, then you can just adjust as you're going and just slip between bullets and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. And of course, like, this guide is not going to teach you the timing or the spawn points for enemies. That's stuff you'll just have to learn. Like here, those two big things I just took out, it's always like one on the right side, then the left, and then that middle one or whatever it was. So you just got to like position yourself for things like that. And of course that just comes with repetition, just remaining consistent and putting the time in and all that. So for this part, this can kind of feel nasty if you're not used to it, but for the most part you can just stay in the middle area and just kind of like move back and forth gently in between these patterns. If things do get crazy, like I said, use your resources. It's so easy to get more bombs in this game, or if you're only using like 5 fragments for that like burst of invincibility that you get for like a short period or whatever, then yeah, like whatever you want to do, however you want to use your resources. Keep an eye on that attack that we just did, because sometimes you can get clipped easily. But and then of course we have all these like pods that are coming out, so you want to stay on top of those. But as you can see, it's just a little bit of a back and forth kind of flow there, and then just positioning here, like making sure you're just in the gaps as they cross through, or cross pathways beyond. This is one that like is easy to fumble because you're focusing on this kind of stuff, but then all of a sudden it just goes right into this last phase. But again, like if you want to use a bomb, then great, just do that, and that can easily get you through. And because I was doing stage select, I'm always starting each stage with the default, so you might actually have more resources going into stage 3, for instance, or whatever. So for those enemies like you saw, you can literally just stay right in front of them and they shoot right past you and you're just in the middle, so you're safe. And then when medium-sized dudes come out like they just did there, that big one anyway, you're just positioned nicely to take it out very quickly, because you know what side it's flying onto the screen from. And then like these big turrets or whatever they are, again, just get up super close, deal with it before things, like before the screen gets just cluttered with bullets. This game is very much about just controlling the board, so to speak, the board state, or the play area. Just making sure you manage everything to the best of your ability, so that things are never just a complete mess. So for that, you just wait until you're through that first thing, and then you just dodge what's actually targeting you, and then it'll switch to these two things coming out. So it's just like a back and forth, and then it goes back to this. So as you can see, you would just pass through and then dodge the one that targets you, and then back to these things that come out. Like, look at all those fragments. Like, what? Like, there is an overabundance in this game. Like, do not hesitate to use your bombs, because you get so many. And another thing, too, is, like, if I was actually using my bombs and getting stars, I would be scoring way more. And, of course, then you're nailing the extends, which are going to come in handy if you are taking hits. See, as you can see with those guys, not much is actually threatening, even though it's like spraying bullets everywhere. if you watch that part again, those two big ones that came out one after another, it's like you just stay in front of it for the most part, and you're only dodging like a couple slow-moving bullets. So this boss tripped me up the first time I got to it, but very quickly I just kind of put together this method where you just inch over and then inch down to just avoid. That was actually really close. Normally I give myself more time and space. I start lower on the one side, go up and then over. But anyway, for this attack here, which just finished up, I think it comes again. You just got to watch where those grids are manifesting and then just put yourself as far away from them so that you have more space to like move through. I realize there's a lot happening so fast and I'm not able to really talk about every single thing. That was another situation where I didn't mean to be up there. This was like literally just slapped together before dinner, so bear with me. That's a pretty nasty attack at times. There's just a lot of stuff to pay attention to. And sometimes you might feel tempted to go for that lock on, but at the same time, you got to be careful that you don't overcommit and get greedy, because sometimes you'll be going so close to get that full lock on or whatever, but you might just end up taking a hit when you could have just stayed at the bottom of the screen shooting the whole time and dealt with it more safely. So keep that in mind too. Just because the mechanic is there doesn't mean you have to like push for it every single second of the whole run. So yeah, that's stage 3 in the bag. And on we go to the second last stage. See a huge gap in front of that guy that you can just stay in front of, and there's no threat as long as you're in that spot. I think we'll see another example of that momentarily. So not that guy, but like one of the other ones coming up. But yeah, there are a lot of different enemies that you'll just have to learn and get used to, so that when you see it, you know exactly what is going to happen and what to do. You don't really need to dash back and forth. I think one of the takes I did before this one, I was holding down lock on the whole time and just moving back and forth and taking out all of those blue guys easily enough. But yeah, you can dash around a little bit. Anyway, for this mid-boss, just learn how to dodge this first part. If you got to use a bomb, just use one. Again, this is some stuff I just haven't practiced at all, so if it looked like a panic moment or that I might take a hit, I would just bomb for the sake of like not taking a hit. So yeah, there's one of those guys. Again, like it's shooting a lot of stuff out, but nothing's really coming at you because you're just positioned in the prime spot. So you don't really need to think about it. And then just back and forth. Nice, gentle, steady movements here. Easily getting rid of those guys. Now, ideally, I would have been like, yeah, that panned out fine, but I would have liked to have been closer to one side so that you have more space to just tap dodge the whole way across the screen. Either left or right, but whatever. It didn't end up mattering anyway. Really cool boss. So anyway, you have that first burst and then these, which are easy enough to just position yourself in between. once you get used to it. And then you're just kind of going back and forth, go up a bit and then down and across, back and forth for that pattern. And this is pretty easy stuff. You can easily see where those like lines of bullets are going to stretch out. And then for this attack, yeah, you just stay in between, do your best to avoid that, and then work your way through. And then for this, it looks crazy, but when you just allow it the time to spread out, like allow the pattern to spread out, then you'll see, oh wow, I actually just have a clear way through. And it's not actually as crazy as it looks. And then you just want to stay on top of those things a little bit. And boom. Stage 4 boss is down. This is one stage where there is a little more movement, but again, it's one of those things like if you're committed to clearing the game, like you're going to need to put the time in, and because you're doing that, you're just going to learn what you need to do and the kind of pacing you need to set for yourself. But yeah, always take things down as quickly as you can, especially the medium-sized or large enemies. That's the important thing. For those ones, as you can see, like they just fire out these slow-moving lines and you can just stay right in between. But yeah, never be afraid to experiment with just getting super close. Even if you take hits, like, it doesn't matter. You can always load up another run after and just see how things go the next time. But like, give yourself the time and space to just put yourself in uncomfortable positions in games like this, because you can learn a ton. There was a really simple opportunity where I could have just gone left during that pattern instead of cornering myself at the side there. So that's why that went the way it did, because I didn't do that. But yeah, anyway. But that was just like a little oversight on my part. Really cool mid-boss though. So those like gun towers that pop up out of the smoke, just stay on top of those. And then like, yeah, we got some of those big turret things again. And then those medium-sized ships, they aren't actually doing anything super crazy, but because there are tiny ships shooting too, that's when things can start to feel cluttered. So just take them out and always stay on top of the popcorn enemies too. And then this is a pretty simple part. It's not really throwing much your way, but at the same time you don't want to let too many of these guys pile in, so you do want to take them down very quickly. Again, just get in between the lines and you're good. And here we are at the final boss already. It's a nice short game. I definitely don't mind that. So yeah, just you go over up to lure the bullets and then use that gap to go back down and across again. That sort of flow for that. But yeah, here we are. So again, I do take a couple hits here because like I just like silly hits like that. That was just ridiculous. Like nothing was going on there, but I just like went right into it. And then for this, just make sure you're paying attention as best you can. But it looks crazier than it is. Like there's a lot of that in here where you kind of just, you see movement and you just think everything's happening at once, but like if you look back at the footage after the fact, or you just do it enough times, you'll see like, oh, okay, there's a very obvious general safe area that you can kind of rely on. And then, of course, here you're more or less just avoiding what's dropping. If you need to bomb just to play it safe, then do so. And there you go. You just cleared Gunvein on mild mode. Amazing. Congratulations. So yeah, I trust this has helped. I'm not sure why that like conked out. It hasn't done that. That's the first time I've seen that happen, but yeah, I trust this can serve as a beneficial resource for those struggling with the game or whatever else. But yeah, like I said, it was just a casual, nothing super specific. If you do have any questions or you're really struggling with a particular section and you would like me to do a greater breakdown, then please let me know, because I'm more than happy to whip up something specific for whoever needs it. But yeah, I've been really enjoying intense mode so far, and green ship, like it's just super cool, but all the ships are great. I think if green ship had like the speed of the red ship, that would just be amazing. But yeah, because I'm not super crazy about like really fast ships, which the green feels like it is, but the weapon is just incredible. But yeah. And I don't really have much experience with the blue ship yet. Miko, I think that's her name. But I do like how widespread that attack is. So anyway, have a stellar day. Thank you so much for checking this out, and all the best with your runs, everybody. I really appreciate the support, and yeah, we will see you all next time.